And just like in the brief, I have 3 36 by 36 inch artboards as well. We could ignore this one. So these are all 36 by 36. So again, I'm going to go to my M and I'm going to click and I'm going to go 36 by 36. Using my transform, I'm going to get that hinged into the top corner. Now I'm going to select and I click my pattern and it's done. So at this stage, this is our normal state. So our first artboard is the exact size we built it out on our 18 by 18. So this essentially means our 18 by 18 is duplicated 4 times. 18 doubled is 36 and then 18 down 36. So this rectangle is now, you can see it, right? So it goes over 1 and then down 2. I will circle back and show you how you can potentially modify that in a brief moment. But now what we need to do is we need to do our scaled down version of our pattern, because 18 by 18 is pretty large. So thinking if we want it to be on like a mini version, we probably don't want those patterns. So say we want it to be on a business card, which is 3.5 by 2 inches. Our pattern, that's going to be really big and we're going to miss a lot of the elements. So say we want to have our scaled down version of our pattern.
So when you make a transparent square around the artboard, you just kind of Command C, Command V, or?
Sorry, what do you mean by the transparent artboard, Colleen?
No, when you put the empty transparent box in it before you put on your pattern, I mean.
Yeah, you just build a box. You don't need to have any color or anything in it because you're going to be adding your pattern swatch to it.
So basically you just paste and place in that box, or?
No, you just apply your pattern, which is now in a swatch.
Oh.
So I make a square. Oh, hang on, it's auto. I make a square and now my pattern, that's how you create your pattern, is you drag your pattern with the box over into your swatches and it's right there.
Okay.
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 Just going to circle back because I do want to show you from here, this state. So now, like I was saying, we're going to create our smaller version. So I'm just going to take this regular state and I'm going to click Option, Shift, and drag. Making sure, I'm really crazy with my increments. I always like to make sure everything's dead on. So now I want a smaller version. So this is where this little hamburger menu on our transform is going to come in handy. So we want to make sure that it says transform both. So when we say transform both, that means we're transforming our shape and we're also transforming our pattern. So always pressing shift, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. So there goes that little pattern. So say I want to have a little mini, probably not that small for a pattern that busy, but it's up to you. That's where testing will come in handy. So let's say this is going to be my small state. So now if I need to fill my square, oh, everything's going a bit wonky. That's why we press shift. But now I want this small pattern to fill this 36 by 36. I'm going to hit that hamburger. And now I'm going to switch this to transform object only, which means I'm not transforming my pattern. I'm just transforming that square. So now I'm going to go here and I'm going to change this to 36 by 36. And there's my small pattern. Same thing works, team, once we get into our large scale pattern. We can now go ahead and again holding, oops, I need to change this to transform both again. I'm going to go and make a really large version of this, making sure I can still see most of my elements that I had on there. Again, I'm going to hit the hamburger, object only, and I'm going to do 36 by 36. Take that back. And now I have my large scale pattern. Okay, and then again, if you wanted that to in fact be larger, again, we just transform our object and this way now we can see more of our pattern. but this is just so I can get a little preview of what that would look like in large scale format. Okay. Is there any questions on that so far? I feel like just listening to me babble might be like a little bit daunting, but it's quite easy, and it's really just nailing down that pattern. Let me screen share again here. When you first do this original pattern, let's just delete this. And let's delete this. So say I forgot to duplicate my pattern over on that side, and maybe I did this. And maybe now we've got some things in here. I'm going to, again, make that box 18 by 18. Again, those transform tools are our best friend. Command Shift, square bracket to send to back. And then I'm going to select all of that. And now I'm going to drag that pattern in. So in our first tester, 36 by 36. Oops. If I, oh, Colleen, your mic is on there. So you can see now I did my test, and this is where you got to take a close look. You're like, oh, shoot. Okay, something's gone wrong. I didn't properly duplicate that pattern to the top. Things are cut off. Things aren't looking the way they should. So that's when you're just going to delete that from your swatches. And then you're going to go back to your original placement. You're going to go try to look, oh, hang on, here's where the problem is. So then you'll properly go and duplicate things. And then you could do another test, and that's where things are looking good to go. So what I will do now and show you just one more thing. So I'm going to then click again and drag all the way across. Bring that into your swatches. Sometimes, to be honest, I'm not sure why it happens. Sometimes I haven't quite figured out where the, lack of better terms, no pun intended, pattern of error might be. But sometimes you might be creating a pattern and it makes perfect sense here, but it's not making sense when you are doing your test. One way to try is if you go into your swatches, you can actually, in fact, double click. So when you double click, you get this little preview. So you've got your screen back. This is where your pattern is duplicated. And in here is where your pattern actually sits. This square, for some reason, sometimes changes. So sometimes this might say 5 by 2. And that's going to really mess up your pattern. So same thing in here. If we go brick by row, that's going to, you can see that preview there, that will mess up your pattern. So if we go grid, now we're back here. Different settings like this. So if you want to essentially tile all of the art versus that square that we set it to, if this is on, that will mess things up because now you could see all these big gaps. So again, that screen back behind you, the dim copies over here, that's kind of like your preview here. So you're like, okay, that's not looking right either. So that's where you do not want it to size tile to art. And again, so I click that off and it's still not looking right. What needs to change is we need to set this back to our 18 by 18, which was our original artboard size and what we intended for it to sit at. And then you get this little preview thing up here. Probably don't want to save a copy. If you were in here, probably means because the first one was wrong. And we're going to click for done. And now, again, that pattern should be in there and should be A-okay. So again, if you are having any issues and you can't quite figure out why things, let me just do that as a little tester. So you put your pattern in there and you're like, what the hell is going on? It should have cropped. It should have been cut off properly. This is taking all of my elements and plunking it in. That's where you're going to double click and you're going to see, oh, it's this. We do not want to size tile to art. We're setting it to that 18 by 18, which we, like I said, originally intended. And now we say done, and now we're fixed. Okay, so a few things that you might need to go in there and adjust. For the most part, as long as you have all those things filling off, and when you double click on your pattern, it says the 18 by 18 and you're on your grid, you should be good to go.